Hi, I'm Stephen Feinberg, Executive Director of the Rhode Island Film and Television Office. Our guest tonight is a phenomenal filmmaker. He lives here in Rhode Island. He does fantastic work, and I want to welcome my friend, an ace cinematographer, director, writer, Eric Latek. Welcome to Double Feature.
Thank you for having me.
So, buddy, you have been busy. I mean, you are here in Rhode Island working. Mm-hmm. You're also on the road working.
Yeah.
You've done, a lot of our audience probably saw some of your work with the Ripple Effect. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about what the Ripple Effect is? Those are those commercials.
Right. So that's a campaign that was brought to me with by Dante Bellini, who's a writer, producer, director in Rhode Island, and he worked with the RDW group and
the state police, right?
Right.
And DOT?
Right. Yes. So actually, you introduced Dante and I probably back in 2016.
Yep.
And I think it was in August of 2016, after you introduced us, him and I had some coffee. I don't drink coffee, so he probably had the coffee, and I just had some water. Right. And we were just talking about potential projects that we could work on in the future. And then probably about 3 weeks later, he came to me, and it was a campaign, the Ripple Effect campaign. At that time, it was called Beyond the Crash, and it just something that needed to get done.
And these are little vignettes,
yeah,
cinematic vignettes about drunk driving,
right,
texting, whatever.
No, texting was specifically drinking and driving. Yeah. The Beyond the Crash, that campaign was specifically through the eyes of state troopers.
Yep.
For that 2016 campaign. And so I had to ride and film with the state police and get various stories through their eyes, and we actually filmed at the PBS studio location, Rhode Island, for the interviews. And then the following year was the Ripple Effect campaign, which kind of Dante wanted to widen the perspective of drinking and driving. So now we moved not past the eyes of the state troopers and kind of looked through the eyes of
the
victims and the medical examiners, the rescue, the paramedics, the firefighters, and
so the Ripple Effect really is an accident that happens through,
right,
whether it's distracted driving or drunk driving, mm-hmm, has a ripple effect on all types of people,
right,
the families, the medical examiner, the police, the impact. And a lot of them, you even did one I thought was very surreal, mm-hmm, about the girl and the shoe. Can you talk about that one?
Oh, yeah. Right. So that was, this past year was a commercial. Again, Dante had asked me to, think of an idea that we could film at the Boneyard at the state troopers.
And the Boneyard is where all of the vehicles that are demolished, they call
right,
it the Boneyard.
Exactly. So it only took me a day to really write this idea, and I was basing it on my own experience. The season before, the campaign before, to give you a little backstory. So the commercial that we shot, which was scripted, which involved this idea of a lost soul of a little girl who's missing her shoe, and she's walking through the Boneyard. And I wanted it to be very haunting looking and have this kind of surreal feel to it. And as she's walking through the Boneyard, we focused on her missing a shoe. So there's a close-up shot of her feet walking, and she's got one red shoe and one foot that's missing a shoe. And as she approaches this dilapidated vehicle in the distance, you see this like heavenly spotlight shining down on it, and the door opens and the shoe comes out. And, and the idea is that she lost her life in this vehicle.
It was very powerful.
Right. And going back a year before that, what gave me the idea was based on my own experience. As I was following a story with Jeff Haru, who works for the state troopers, and he had me going through all the photos. So I was filming B-roll of him going through photos of wrecks.
Right.
And he came upon this one wreck that had, at that time, had happened a week prior. And it was a husband and wife who lost their lives from drinking and driving. They were struck by somebody who was intoxicated. And as I'm going through, I had the camera down, and he's going through photos. One photo that kind of struck me was the wife was on a gurney, and she had like one Ugg boot and one missing. So later that day, I was filming Amy Jackman, who was the investigator, who her job was taking photos of the scene. And so we were at the boneyard, and I'm filming her randomly getting photos of this car that was struck with the husband and wife's car. So as I came around to the driver's side door, her other Ugg boot was hanging out of the back seat.
Wow.
And man, it just haunted me, like to this day, you know.
You just sent a chill up my spine.
Yeah. So I remember that night, just back at home, I just kept your brain starts playing games, but it really,
it's amazing how like that Ugg boot represented the crash.
Yeah, it made it very real.
Right.
To me at that time.
It had a ripple effect, so to speak, on you. And
I just relay that into the commercial that you see
for
with
the audience to understand. And you did it. So it's so, like you said, it's cinematic, it's haunting. It was so well done, and it's impactful.
Yeah, thank you. And that was actually Dante's niece, and who never acted, and she was just
she had that
perfect.
Yeah, she was like
she was perfect.
Yeah, almost like a ghost child.
Oh God, yeah.
It was really great. And you guys, how many of those commercials did you do? These are public service announcements for the Department of Transportation, for the police department, to get the word out of the problems of drinking and driving. How many did you do?
Well, the first campaign was probably about 6 to 7, if I remember.
Yeah.
The Ripple Effect campaign the following year was, gosh, I don't have an exact number, but it was a lot. There's a few dozen. Well, it might have been, a good 20. Right. It depends. That could be 2-3 minute segments. That could be 5-minute segments. It could be 30-second segments.
Now, how long did it take you to make all of those? A year?
Yeah, for each campaign, it takes about a year.
Yeah. Well, it was wonderful stuff.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that I just had this road of having to film and deal with pretty heavy content. I didn't go looking for it. It's just that thing that over the years has come my way, and it's humbled me in so many different respects. Yeah. It gives me a different perspective of, live, looking through the eyes of different people and their stories, and it really grounded me in
mortality.
So many ways. Yeah.
You learn about mortality.
Well, you don't take things for granted either.
Right. Well, you did it's just awesome.
Thank
you. While you're doing that, now you've got some of your own projects that are your personal projects that you've been working on. There's a documentary that you've been working on for years that took some twists and turns about Gary Boletto, also known as Tiger.
Correct.
Can you talk about your film Tiger and how that has evolved and where we are today with that?
Yeah, so Tiger's finally done.
Congratulations.
And, thank you. And that's been 17 years.
17 years of passion.
Yeah, and so when I filmed it on a technical level, I think that documentary has seen 7 different cameras, throughout the course of its evolution. But yeah, when I had started it, it was Gary's story was just part of another story I was doing, and as I was following this kid who was a bookie on the streets, and then over time, it really, it was obvious that Gary's story was front and center, and you just sometimes as a filmmaker, especially in the world of documentary, I think, you know, you need to just go with your gut and just kind of see where it's leading you. And Gary eventually ended up getting hurt tragically.
Broke his neck?
Broke his neck, right?
Yep, broke his neck, became a paraplegic.
Yes. And then I found myself filming in the ICU for months, and then his rehab at Spalding in Boston for months.
The impact on his family and his life.
And, you know, it became a different story.
And we'll show clips, but you did it in a way that is pure cinema. These are not actors.
Right.
You may think that they're, because a lot of these people are beautiful looking people, I think. But you made it cinema, and it's nonfiction, but someone might think it's fiction because of it's a real different art form, I think.
Yeah, it's a very, what's kind of called cinema verite.
Right.
You know, for me, it was this art of being passive. So I don't do interviews. I don't do any of the traditional. I didn't write anything.
Right.
What happens in front of the camera happens in front of the camera. So when I would go into any situation filming, I had no idea what was going to happen. I controlled nothing. And all I tried to do was capture it as cinematically as I could.
And you did. I mean,
Thank you.
You captured these moments, very, very powerful moments.
Yeah, I think it's, for me, when I watch something, the less is more concept, meaning like whatever's happening in front of the camera, let it happen.
Right.
And that's all I need to show. It says everything.
Well, I think what you're doing too is you're capturing the truth. And that's the magic. You capture the truth, and then you're also capturing it as best it could be captured.
Yeah, and for me, and I did the same thing with Ripple Effect, although we had to do interviews in Ripple Effect.
Right.
But, you know, and I get bored filming interviews. It's just, it's not what sometimes you have to do it. But even when I was filming the content that we were capturing out in the field, I was trying to get it as cinematic as I could. Part of the reason I now understand is that it's a way for me to disconnect from sometimes the harsh reality that I have to capture. So, you know, a different thing turns on in my brain where I'm worried about the composition of the frame and trying to almost think of what I'm capturing is not real in a sense, and trying to think more of a filmmaker. I'm not a documentary filmmaker by any stretch of the means.
But you are.
Yeah.
You are. I understand.
You know what I mean?
But you're also, I guess what you're saying is you're an artist. You're a filmmaker, artist, but you are.
It's like I'm trying to bring to the table narrative films that have influenced me, you know, or cinematography that has influenced me.
Are there any particular filmmakers that you happen to love, or go ahead, just mention a few that inspire you?
Well, if I'm going to talk on both sides of the table, there is, on the documentary, Chris Smith, who actually did one of my favorite documentaries called American Movie. And that's what inspired me at the time when I had graduated Emerson College. You know, things weren't like they were today, where you had really the internet, you didn't have YouTube, or you didn't have as much access to make films. You kind of had to be in the business in many respects. And I lived in Rhode Island. I wasn't ready to make that move to LA. Staying around my family was important, but I just wanted to film. So when I seen American Movie, not only was it one of my favorite documentaries to this day, because the people within the documentary were so captivating and quirky, and you would have thought they were written. It was this low-budget documentary, and it just turned the switch on for me that, I can just grab a camera, find interesting people, and try to tell a story. And that's kind of how Tiger evolved, you know. So American Movie, one of my favorites, by Chris Smith. You know, you have your obvious other.
I know you like Paul Thomas Anderson.
I love Paul Thomas Anderson.
Is he? Would you say he's your favorite?
I don't know if I have a favorite.
Yeah.
You know, I have a group of favorites,
Right.
right? There's so many because you take different things from different filmmakers. I can't say I have a favorite. I just love and respect so many of them, from, you know, Paul Thomas Anderson to, obviously, you got your Scorsese and Tarantino. Those are almost like givens. But,
Right.
yeah, so many.
Now, okay, so Tiger, which was this almost 2-decade-long passion
Right.
projects, now come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
What's the game plan for Tiger now that it's done?
Yes, so Tiger, actually, the cut has been done for about a year.
How long is it?
It's an hour and 50 minutes.
Okay.
So that was a challenge, obviously, taking
Years and
years and years and years of content and whittling it down to under 2 hours. You know, right now the leg of the work has been making sure, and this has been my eye-opener in terms of the business side of things. Much of it I just don't enjoy, obviously, because I like to do the work of it and the filming and the storytelling, the editing.
You're talking legal? Is it the legal
Oh
stuff?
God, I can't stand it. It
funny.
honestly ruins like
Right.
the process for me.
Because you have to button up everything so that you can offer it to
Yeah.
whether it's a Netflix or whomever, a distributor. You have to have everything buttoned
Yeah,
down
it's
legally.
ridiculous. It's been a year of that.
Yeah.
You know?
Is there anything you could share with the audience that would, because of your experience, that you would tell people, hey, please keep this in mind while you're doing the process?
Oh yeah, I could write a book on it.
Okay.
You know, so with Tiger, obviously, it was a different case where when I started filming, the industry over the years has changed,
Right.
and has the legality factor of it. So things that when I started filming in 2000, 2001, you know, I wasn't even thinking. And don't forget, I'm really riding solo.
So in other words,
as I
you could have
film
been
this.
filming in front of a Blockbuster that no longer exists, and there might have been somebody
Yeah.
there who's in your background shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You know, and
It's like,
now
hey man, there's not even a Blockbuster.
Yeah, and I guess my big argument is that what we're supposed to have as filmmakers, as documentary filmmakers,
Right.
Journalistically, is the fair rights use.
Right.
You know, that's like gone.
Right. Okay.
Pretty much,
Yep,
right?
Yep.
So now you really, any filmmaker that's going to film anything, especially in the world of documentary, if you're going into a location, make sure you're getting the property rights to film in that location. Waivers to get your location waivers, your property materials location. So like, you know, this cup of coffee,
Right.
this cup of water, or
Right.
what magazines
Right.
that's waived off, and obviously the people you're filming or the people in the background. So much to it. It's
that business side of things.
yeah,
And it's a
it's
lot.
exhausting.
Yeah, it's
you
like
know what I mean? It's just like.
But you're happy, you're excited about the film, you're
Oh yeah, no, I mean I'm so proud of it for sure.
and you had
It's,
Mauro Colangelo did the music.
Yes,
and
yeah.
You guys have been working together.
Right,
for-
we actually did the music, we did the mix and everything in Rome last year at this time.
Wonderful.
So last December and January, we were in Rome mixing for Tiger, and now it's been a year of paperwork.
Oh,
Just
okay. Now the
almost
other
there.
thing that you do, and you get hired by a lot of different companies to travel. You know, sometimes I'll hear you say, "Hey, I got to go to Las Vegas," and
Yeah.
what kind of stuff are you doing when you go to Las Vegas?
Well, I get hired by studios and agencies to direct commercials. So a lot of times it's situations where I have to go out and travel and direct a commercial for 2-3 days and get everything shot and then bring it back to post here. I do all my post-production here.
And what's your favorite part? Is it the filming, the editing? What, do you have a favorite part of the process?
It's a loaded question because I used to love the filming part. I still do, but at least all the content I've had to shoot over the years in the world of documentary has it's weighed on my heart a little bit.
Well, those are dark. You've been doing a lot of darker material.
Right. And again, but it does shift my love for grabbing a camera.
Right,
you
right,
know,
right. You're
like,
going
where
in a
now I'm
dark
like,
place. It's like, hey, how many times can you? I'm going to do Schindler's List, and then the
Yeah.
next film, I'm doing Schindler's List again.
Yeah,
Right. It's
and then, but not only that, you have to bring it back to post and edit it and
Right.
see the same content over
Right,
and over
right.
and over again. So a couple years ago, what I did to really sidetrack that part of my brain was I always enjoy the post-production things such as color grading.
because you have
and,
control.
I think not only because it's not, I don't know if it's because I have control. It's just something, it's more, I don't even want to say the artistic side of a brain. It's like if I'm doing I'm making tool sets, it's just something that I enjoy. It's almost my meditation of if I go into a program like After Effects, which is like for visual effects compositing,
Right.
or if I create color grading tools, I just found myself creating a whole bunch of tools for other filmmakers to use, whether it's coloring tools, sound effects libraries. It just, it was like my way of
Creating?
Isolating, yeah, and not having to deal with the heaviness that I was dealing with.
Right,
and
right.
with that, I
It's almost
created,
like painting.
yeah, no, it really was. I was creating toolkits.
Yes.
It wasn't for not just for my work, but for other people to use.
And what's the name of the? What's the name?
So the suite I created, it's called Cine Punch.
Cine Punch.
Yeah, and again, I did it purely.
Now, how many? Now, Cine Punch is a suite that other filmmakers can access,
Yes,
and it's all different types of After Effects, right?
it's everything. It's from color grading tools to sound effects to trailer sound effects to toolkits to.
Give
for
us some
visual
examples.
effects.
Give the audience some examples of how that would be used.
It's anything from the most simple, like transitions, right? One shot to another. You can use the tool in a program like Adobe Premiere and make an effect between your two shots. So it's like you have a nice, cool transition from one shot to the
Right.
next. Or sound effects libraries if you're doing sound mixes for your movie. I have like almost 3,000 sounds that I created to give filmmakers the ability to mix different sounds. Or color, you need a color tweak your movie or your commercial.
So, in other words, you might shoot something, and then suddenly you want it to have a creepier effect.
Or that, yeah, there's toolkits that I created in that suite that you can just drag and drop your footage and give it a whole different look from it can look like going from it was shot yesterday to something that was shot in 1918, you know what I mean?
Right,
All different things like that. And what that did was really, again, it was like the way I was able to just like move my brain to a different place, and it worked out. And I didn't have the intent to do anything as far as business opportunity when I made it. It just kind of grew and became.
And how many? So now, is it a subscription for Cine Punch?
No. Filmmakers use they buy it one time and
then they have that.
then they have it.
And you said even in the most recent Star Wars, they
So all the big studios have used it. I mean, the clients I have from like Lucasfilms to Walt Disney Pictures to HBO to Showtime, and
that's got to be exciting.
It's cool.
Do you get? How do you know?
But I like it when the individual filmmakers using it, and they'll send me
feedback.
things.
They'll give you an email. They'll send you an email.
Oh yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Oh, that's
it's great,
wonderful.
Because then it feels like it's helped somebody.
Do they also give you ideas of things they want, and then you can create for them that have?
At this point, I've put so much into the suite that it's tough to. I have a few more tools that I'll be developing this year to add into the suite, such as title effects and things like that. But I've added so much that the value is just it's off the charts.
That's fantastic. What's coming up next? What's next on the Eric Latek?
So right now, aside from the Tiger 2020, getting that out to the world, and I'm finishing up a project with Dante Bellini on Ken Burns.
Ken Burns, right?
Yeah. So right now we're literally in the midst of finalizing that.
And this is Ken's. It's analyzing, or it's a documentary on Ken Burns and how he works.
Part of it. So it's kind of his. It's also showing how Walpole, New Hampshire, is his kind of like
home base.
Home base, and how it's given him the foundation to be a filmmaker that he's become. Because when he started, the Brooklyn Bridge being like that first film, you know, he had this decision where at the time he was living in New York and his rent went up, I think it was $350 at that time in the late 70s. And he was in a position where he had to decide, I'm going to either shelf this documentary that I'm making and get a job to pay my rent, or he ended up finding Walpole, where he ended up saving money and still pursuing his dream and still ended up making the Brooklyn Bridge. And it gave him the foundation to
live and work in a place he loved and maximize his
and
potential.
not break the bank.
And that's what you did.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of ironic. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, buddy, I want to thank you so much for your
thank
time.
You. Thank
I
you.
want to thank you for your talent and for what you do. You also are a wonderful mentor to a lot of young filmmakers. I know you do that as well. You're a great family person as well, and a wonderful asset to the state of Rhode Island.
Thank you so
And I'm
much.
blessed to call you my friend.
Thank you.
All right, buddy.
Thank you.